Hey, what's going on? It's Spazdor, the man who spent over 150 hours on Doomfist and still complained about bugs the entire time. So today I wanted to go over my favorite hero in the game, Doomfist. He's one of Overwatch's active brawler heroes, if not the most active. In Overwatch 1, he was the kind of hero to quickly dive to the enemy backline, get a quick pick, and then get out. He was and continues to be one of the buggiest heroes in the lineup, despite not being taken out of the game for bug fixes like Bastion and Mei. If it isn't a punch slide bug, it's a seismic slam no register. In Overwatch 1, Doomfist was versatile in his playstyle. You could either be the Doomfist that plays with your team and gets big value off of already highly damaged enemy heroes, or you can play him like I did. You go for stupid, out-of-the-way rollouts to get the max 125 damage slam, comboed with his uppercut and hand cannon to get an easy one-shot in the backline. Or you can learn all about his movement techs and bugs like diagonal punch, punch bounces, or seismic slam stalls to pull off plays that even top 500 Doomfist had trouble pulling off. One play style was highly rewarding toward the whole team, and a Doomfist could carry the team to a rolled and smoked victory, while the other was highly rewarding for the player for being able to pull off a crazy one-shot rollout. Before going any further, I feel I should fully explain Doomfist's new ability kit. Doomfist's primary fire is still his hand cannon on his left hand. He has 4 shots that he can shoot at 3 shots per second and regenerate every 0.4 seconds. In his hand cannon shotgun burst, he can do anywhere from 18.5 damage to 55 damage per shot, with an 11 pellet spread on one shot. These damage numbers are without any critical hit, which would then double the amount of damage per critical hit. The newest ability added to his kit that replaced his rising uppercut is his power block. Put simply, this ability allows Doomfist to block incoming damage in front of him at a damage reduction of 80%. While he's using power block, he is slowed by 35% movement speed and can be hit from sides or back for full damage while active. If Doomfist blocks a minimum of 90 damage, it will enable his empowered punch, which gives Doomfist's next rocket punch 50% more damage and speed, increases the distance traveled while using his rocket punch, the amount an enemy is knocked back to one punch, and to throw a cherry on top, gives the enemy an extra stun when they hit the wall. This ability has a 2-second duration with an 8-second cooldown, which makes his empowered punch fairly readily available if you manage to use this ability at the right time. In addition, if Doomfist charges up his punch using the power block while rocket punch is on cooldown, the cooldown will reset and is ready for immediate use. Doomfist's most iconic yet infamous ability is his rocket punch. Back in the day, you could use a fully powered up punch to simply look at an enemy Genji that's practicing for the next gymnastics Olympic event, punch him into a wall, and make him rethink his life choices. Those were the good old days. With Doomfist's role being changed over to tank, his rocket punch got a thorough rework. Now, instead of a fully powered up punch doing 100 damage on impact and hitting a wall adding another 150 damage to one target, Doomfist's punch can now hit multiple enemies at once, with the damage falling off to 30 on impact and 40 more when being punched into a wall. However, Doomfist's punch can output more damage when his punch has been empowered by his new power block ability, bringing the maximum damage from a punch to 45 on impact and 60 when punched into a wall, unfortunately only tallying up to 105 damage from a fully empowered punch. While this damage number is disappointing to many longtime Doom players like myself, the new ability to punch multiple people with one punch and the cooldown being changed from 4 seconds to 3 seconds makes the damage fall off almost worth it. Next on the list is his seismic slam, which also got quite the rework. Doomfist's old slam used to vary from 25 to 125 damage, scaling to the amount of airtime before his fist hit the ground. It also used to have a much shorter range at 8 meters, which was balanced since his slam could pull enemies closer to him so he could follow up with a hand cannon shot. Now, however, his slam has nearly double the range it once had at 15 meters. To anyone within the area of effect, the ability does 50 damage flat, with no crowd control bringing enemies closer to him like the old slam. Despite these changes, however, the damage is not the only use of this ability. While Doom's vertical movement used to be from the use of his uppercut or diagonal punch, now with his slam ability he can fly high up into the air. Most times when darting straight up, you go so high that you hit the map ceiling on most maps. His slam allows him to position himself for high value rocket punches that could either punch enemies off the map or into your team to be focused and eliminated. While the 50 flat damage is great, don't be afraid to use and then cancel this ability to fling yourself into a more favorable position. Surprisingly, one of the two abilities in his kit that had zero change from Overwatch 1 to 2 was his passive ability, the Best Defense. This passive allows all damage done from Doomfist's abilities to be converted into temporary shields over his normal health. For every enemy hit with one of his cooldown abilities, he gains 30 temporary shields, while for every enemy hit with his ultimate, granting him 75 temporary health. With this rework, he's able to keep his overshield up fairly consistently, which makes him a good dive and survive hero. The final ability in Doom's kit is his ultimate, Meteor Strike, the second ability that had zero changes from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and in my honest opinion, the lack of change is a good thing. For years after his ultimate got nerfed in Overwatch 1, Doom players like myself were begging the developers to boost his ultimate so it could feel like a DPS ultimate that could actually eliminate players. It always felt so weak, and 75% of the time, it killed nobody, or got a bug that literally made it do no damage to someone in the middle of the ability. However, now with his role change to tank, the ultimate fits him much better. In the inner circle of 2 meters, his Meteor Strike does 300 damage, while the outer ring of 6 meters does anywhere from 15 to 100 damage depending on how far into the outer circle the enemy is. So, while the ultimate itself hasn't changed at all, the stats on it are much more fitted for a tank hero. Unfortunately, at the launch of Overwatch 2, Doomfist was changed from a DPS hero into a tank. This rework changed everything about the hero, like how the abilities work and how he's supposed to be played. Now, instead of having multiple playstyles for Doomfist, he really only has one that makes him the tank that the team needs to combat the other, much more equipped tanks. While yes, Doomfist is still very much a brawler hero, how he goes about accomplishing that in the tank role is different from how he did before. While Doom used to be the kind of hero to get a quick pick and get out, now his job comes much more in making space and softening up the enemy's HP so the DPS heroes can clean up. Much like how Reinhardt's, Zarya's, and Sigma's ultimates set up the rest of the team for big team wipes, Doomfist's main playstyle is about making those kind of openings happen with just his base cooldowns. Since Doom's Rocket Punch is able to punch multiple enemies as opposed to just one in Overwatch 1, he can group enemies together quite well against a wall with a decently placed punch. When punched into a wall with a fully empowered punch, that group of enemies will be at half health if they are a 200 to 225 health hero, giving DPS like Genji, Widowmaker, Pharah, or Ashe the opportunity to dive, pick, burst, or land a big area of effect ability to capitalize on these low health enemies. This is one way Doomfist can create space and openings for his team to get quick eliminations. Another being diving the backline of the enemy team to push high priority targets like supports right into the heart of your team to be focused. With the combination of his Seismic Slam and his Rocket Punch, Doomfist can put himself into positions to punch enemies where they don't want to be. Just one priority pick like that in the beginning of an engagement can turn the entire tide of the fight. With the change from 6v6 PvP to 5v5 PvP, some of the unspoken game rules have been altered. While yes, a tank is generally supposed to be the one protecting the team, that isn't exactly how Overwatch 2 is played. DPS and support heroes need to be able to keep themselves alive much more than they did in Overwatch 1. With a lot of space being opened up in each map due to only having one tank, everyone is more vulnerable to taking damage. Even with a Reinhardt shield in front of everyone, that shield having less health will see it melted in 3 seconds and then leaving the rest of the team vulnerable. Pushing with your entire team into the enemy is the way to win games. While in Overwatch 1, a lot of strategy were to hide behind the tanks and deal damage here and there to get a pick. The game is so much more in your face that if you stay stagnant in your movement, you will die and you will lose. With this in mind, yes, Doomfist is much more of an offensive hero. However, there is no game mode that you will only attack on, unless you're playing quick play. Every game mode has a point in the match where you need to defend an objective, and Doomfist can be viable in these situations as opposed to being an offensive pick only. When playing Doomfist defensively, you need to be aware of high value spots on the map that enemy players will post themselves at, as say, Widowmaker, Ashe, or Cassidy. Diving these heroes on high ground and taking them out quickly can highly limit the opposing team's damage output and turn the fight in your favor. Doom doesn't even necessarily need to 1v1 these heroes on their ground. Given a well-placed punch, he can punch these heroes off their high ground and into the team fight, where they will generally get melted. When diving these heroes, yes, you leave your team vulnerable, but as I previously stated, everyone needs to try and keep themselves alive without reliance on a tank. Doomfist wins defensive fights by either getting an early pick on an out-of-position enemy, or by punching back the other team at a given choke point, stalling until the DPS can get a pick, and then diving the other team at a 5v4 team advantage. Use your rocket punch and power block intermittently at choke points to maximize how far they'll get pushed back from an empowered punch. Playing Doomfist on defense can be tough, but as long as you're making space and opportunities for your DPS to shine, most of your matches will end up in victory. Knowing when you can play Doomfist safely is another big part of whether you'll lose or win. While Doom's kit itself is fun and can feel amazing, like every hero in the game, he has counters. Some being soft counters that are manageable to say the least to play against, while others being very hard counters that could force you to switch. The first two soft counters to Doomfist that are pretty obvious would be Pharah and Echo. They fly high in the air out of Doomfist range, allowing for free damage with very little counterplay unless you can land a crazy slam cancel punch into a wall or some crap like that. The next soft counter to Doomfist would be Mei. The slow effect from her primary fire combined with her ice wall will limit Doomfist's movement. Sojourn soft counters Doomfist right now, mostly because she's broken and has high damage headshots from her railgun, but mostly counters him because of her disruptor shot and the slow effect that brings. Zenyatta soft counters Doom right now because it's very situational when he counters him. If you get caught in the backline and Zen happens to throw his Discord over onto you, you're gonna get melted down and die immediately. Ana soft counters Doom pretty much the same way that Zenyatta does, in the fact that if she lands your sleep dart onto you, generally anywhere, you can get focused down pretty quickly by the entire team. Reinhardt and Brigitte soft counter Doom right now because their shields mixed with the knockback abilities of Brigitte and the charge from Reinhardt, you can either be put a hella out of the position and get picked, or you can get focused down quickly after being charged into a wall from Reinhardt. Symmetra and Torbjorn are a little bit of a soft counter to Doom right now because their turret's constant damage without them really having to do anything, and Doomfist not having the range to take out the turret, it's going to slow him down just long enough for him to get picked, or just the passive damage will pick him off at the end of a fight.
Fucking turret, dude.
Yo, Editor Spazdor here, and I just want to mention that Kiriko's is somewhat of a soft counter, especially if they're on the same team as you. If they throw the cleanse down while you're power blocking, you don't get any damage in, and that can prevent your empowered punch, which can then cripple you more. And enemy Kiriko's, when they throw down the cleanse, can completely negate your rocket punch or your ultimate, doing no damage. You can just punch right through them and go hell out of position. Just wanted to add that because I feel like it's a little bit of a soft counter there.
First of all, as a Doom player, fuck Sombra. I hope she dies in a ditch. Thank you. Sombra's hack has crippled Doom since his launch. While hack is nowhere near as powerful as it once was, one small hack on Doom can interrupt the whole flow of his kit. Doomfist is about getting in and out safely. If Sombra hacks him and when he's about to punch out and go back to his team, he's a sitting duck. At the end of the day, hack counters Doomfist. Orisa is much more of a hard counter with her rework, making her much more of a brawler than she was before. Now she poses a new threat to Doomfist. Since Orisa no longer sits behind a shield and instead runs at you, Doom can't ruin her bunker like he used to be able to. When Orisa presses shift and activates her fortify ability, all of Doom's punch value gets flushed down the drain. She is not going to move an inch. While you're standing in front of her trying to drain her HP to no effect, she's beaming you down with her primary fire, and can even pull an Uno reverse card and pound you into the wall with her javelin. Not to mention her javelin spin that she'll push you back with, potentially closer to a wall, where then she will promptly javelin you into. With Orisa's crowd control resistance and the new crowd control ability she's acquired, Orisa is a hard counter to Doomfist. Bastion could be considered a debatable hard counter, but because of a few factors, I strongly believe that he is a hard counter to Doom. Standing at 300 health, with 100 of that being armor, Bastion can take a hit from Doomfist fairly well. If the health wasn't enough, when Bastion transforms into his turret mode, your power block might as well be a I wanna die button. Bastion's configuration tank damage per second is crazy high and can easily gun down Doomfist whether he's power blocking or not. While Doom can take out a Bastion on his own with an empowered punch and a big hitbox of Bastion making all of his pellets land, The outplay potential of Bastion simply just trumps Doomfist in this matchup. I don't even feel like I need to explain this one. A good Widowmaker counters everyone in the game. If a Widowmaker sees your head and clicks on it, you're dead. Your whole team's dead. Fuck it, your dog's dead. Maybe not. Maybe not your dog. But unless you can dive her and kill her, say goodbye to your win. But that's about all I wanted to cover. I hope this helps any aspiring Doomfist players work on their gameplay. Doomfist right now is an absolute throw pick to anyone that doesn't understand how he plays, which, unfortunately, is most of the player base. If you know how to play him, though, you'll absolutely roll the other team. Now that you know the ins and outs of Doomfist, I encourage you to give him a try next time you queue for tank. Be sure to leave a like on the video so that I know that you, well, liked it. And follow me on Twitch and catch me when I'm streaming. Follow me on Twitter for content updates and going live notifications for my stream. Thanks for watching and have an astounding day.